The world above is made possible with financial assistance from the Small Aircraft Manufacturers Association, Otis Spunkmeyer Incorporated, General Aviation News and Flyer, Flight Training Magazine, and others.
Ever since flight became a reality for mankind, civil and military aviation have both served as test beds for a staggering array of new engineering developments. Advances in aerodynamics, electronics, navigation, and weather forecasting have come fast and furious in less than a century, often at a pace that pushes the limits of human comprehension. But amid aviation's wild, headlong race to the future, there are those with a keen appreciation of the past as well. With an eye toward the grace and design of a bygone era, these aviators choose to fly between the past and the present, finding long-forgotten rewards in aircraft designs that can only be called timeless. I'm Jeannie Yeager. Join us as we fly some remarkable vintage aircraft in the here and now, and journey from the earth below to the world above. Fortunately, the marketing-based tradition of planned obsolescence has never really caught on among aircraft manufacturers. With very few exceptions, airplanes are built to be flown for as long as they're cared for. Certain aircraft components may have design life cycles requiring replacements or overhauls after hundreds or thousands of flight hours, but this periodic service is considered routine. With a little care, it's even possible for airplanes to outlive their owners, being passed down through the generations like precious heirlooms. A jewel in the eyes of Kent and Sandy Blankenberg of Arroyo Grande, California, is this immaculate 1938 Lockheed 12A Electra Jr. Designed as the ultimate in fast personal transportation, the 12A first flew in 1936 and would cruise in excess of 200 miles per hour. Using the same Pratt & Whitney Wasp engines found in its bigger brother, the Model 10 Electra, the 12A would easily outrun the most advanced commercial airliners of the time. Niner Kilo originally served as corporate transportation for Phillips Oil Company. She then moved on to Noble Oil Company and finally became a museum piece on static display. Her story might have ended there, if it wasn't for Kent and Sandy's love of classic airplanes.
After finding this aircraft in Santa Fe, New Mexico, it was not a proud aircraft. It had been sitting in a defunct museum atmosphere for many years, not flown. We just put our love and energy into it to make it proud again, to make it shine again. A lot of cosmetic work, taking the interior all apart, saving it, putting it back. That effort continues. It's an ongoing commitment to the aircraft.
The biggest payoff in maintaining Niner Kilo becomes crystal clear to even the most casual observer when it's time to fly. The starting procedure is a precise dance of switches, pumps, and propeller blades until each Pratt & Whitney cylinder joins the chorus.
Clear left.
And the only thing better than the sound of a round aircraft engine is a sound from two. Out on the runway, the throttles come forward, the tail lifts, and this classic Lockheed takes to the sky as she has so many thousands of times before. It's not always easy to keep any airplane in flying condition, and one that's almost 60 years old presents some unusual challenges.
Main gear tires for this aircraft is probably the largest
area of concern for keeping the aircraft airworthy. These were manufactured by Goodyear, which I've told us destroyed the molds. There is a manufacturer of a Tundra tire, 2-ply, tubeless, very lightweight for the Super Cub world, etc. But he can lay up 6-ply and build a tube, and he does for this aircraft. So that's our savior for the time being. The rebuild and the caretaking the engine is really the easiest part of this whole aircraft. The engines are readily available. There are a number of very good overhaul shops, and for the size and horsepower, the economics is really there also. We really don't sit and worry about its age or its hours it's put in. When these aircraft are built, designed, they were poking around in a lot of unknowns, so they quite overbuilt them. And that structural integrity, not unlike overbuilding a bridge for its weight capacity. The aircraft were really built strong by craftsmen that put a lot into them. The range will take us from San Luis Obispo to Albuquerque. We comfortably sit up here for 900 miles. Usually the pilot and the passengers like to get out of the airplane in lesser distances than the airplane will really fly. Well, the special effort on parts or anything else to keep the aircraft airworthy is a constant chase, and of course the Lockheed owners network somewhat, and one guy's got a couple of parts, another guy's got 20 parts, and you do a little swapping around and trying to keep them all airworthy.
Star 950, 3 mile 45 for the downwind on the right. So instructions, continue holding short, traffic short final. San Luis Ground, Calcus Fuels at the base tower to the west side.
Calcus Fuels, San Luis Ground, proceed up to hold short of runway 29er behind the Electra at taxiway Echo.
Roger,
See
Calcus.
how they call it an Electra? Yeah. They don't call it a PJ-18 around here.
We took our honeymoon in this Lockheed Electra. We went to Lakeland, Florida, and I couldn't think of a better way to start a marriage.
Sandy's support in all of this is really valuable to me, and we enjoy this side by side. It's really a love for both of us.
Sergeant Randy Parent has spent a lot of time in the air. A former Vietnam helicopter pilot and the commander of the East Bay Regional Parks District Helicopter Unit, he and his crew rack up the flight hours performing a wide variety of public services from their 2-jet turbine helicopters. It's demanding and challenging work, and Randy has found the perfect way to deal with the high stress levels of law enforcement flying. In his spare time, you'll find Randy knocking about in an airplane that's older than he is, a 1946 Piper J3 Cub. The most famous among the Piper aircraft line, the Cub has been called the airplane that taught America to fly. Randy's Cub has also spent time in a museum, but has once again joined the fleet of active aircraft. Now powered by an 85 horsepower Continental engine, this Cub has 20 more horsepower than most other J3s built in the 30s and 40s. And that's where the special equipment ends. Randy's Cub looks much as it did the day it rolled off of Piper's Lock Haven factory floor almost 50 years earlier. Not very complicated, sporting only those instruments and gauges absolutely necessary, the Cub excelled in focusing the students' attention on the fine art of airmanship. The small airplanes of this era rarely had electrical systems, lights, radios, or even starters, but then those luxuries were rarely needed. Most flying was done in the daytime from grass or gravel strips without control towers.
I'm flying, really, the ultimate time machine. When you get into a Piper Cub and you take off and you clear the airport traffic area, well, the Cub doesn't know that it's 1993, and once you turn that portable radio off, well, you're back in the 1940s. If I come in the morning before work and I take the Cub out, or on my day off I go out and fly the Cub, well, it just kind of ties the whole experience together for me. I can really say that I'm an aeroplane pilot. I'm flying a Piper Cub.
Getting a Cub like Randy's airborne is a very straightforward process. The engine is primed and turned over for a few blades, then switches on, throttle cracked, and it's time to go. In typical tail-dragger fashion, S-turns are required while making your way to the runway, as forward visibility is limited. Everything about a cub suggests a slower pace, and this is reflected in the leisurely way a cub lines up on the center line preparing to fly. As the throttle is fully open, the control surfaces quickly come alive. The tail comes up and the world slowly drops away. Even in today's hectic, go-fast, gotta-get-there world, the Cub is still the ideal airplane for those who want to experience a bygone time and relive the timeless joys of flying simple. Not all trainer designs from the 30s shared the same goal of just teaching the basics. Germany was on the brink of a world war and needed competent fighter pilots in a hurry. Their answer was found in a series of nimble biplanes called Buchers, and the German pilots loved them. One very rare surviving example is this Bucher 133 Youngmeister, owned and flown by Don Carter.
This is the best flying airplane ever built for fun aerobatics. For competition nowadays it won't hold up, but it's still the best for being honest and light on the controls, everything balanced perfectly. This is a 1940, probably one of the last ones built. It's a Siemens engine, a German engine, 160 horsepower. Very smooth engine. They build them like a Swiss watch. There are no Lord mounts, no rubber mounts. It's bolted on metal to metal, but it's real smooth. Flies like all of them should, and none of the rest do. It's a very easy airplane to fly, a very easy airplane to land and take off. Probably one of the easiest airplanes ever built for landing and taking off. It doesn't want a ground loop, doesn't want to float. Just comes in, sits down, and plunks down, and keeps rolling straight ahead. It's a slow-speed airplane. Nothing has to be done very fast. Takes off, gets off the ground before you're really ready. It's a very light airplane with 160 horses. It cruises about 105, 110. And the max, doing heavy aerobatics, to try to do something vertical, the max speed is 200 kilometers, which is about 120 miles an hour, which is pretty amazing when you put it up against today's aerobatic airplanes that probably do 200 miles an hour plus to do this stuff. No, I don't think you could change anything on a Bucher for an improvement. If you changed it, it probably messes it up. The biggest problem nowadays is the old engine. I'm lucky I have a spare. To keep that thing running forever is going to be a problem. So nowadays maybe they put a modern 180 Lycoming in there, but the airplane never flies the same. Not as good an airplane, even though you've got more power, you've got more weight. If you put more weight, you upset the airplane. Everybody wants a Bucher, or most pilots, see the pants guys, aerobatic guys, all would like to have a Bucher, but there are only about 20 of them left, 20 in this country anyway, and they're very hard to come by. Guys that have them don't want to part with them.
Another 30s trainer design that has more than its share of die-hard fans is the Cadet, or is more commonly known, the Stearman. With more than 10,000 produced since 1934, the Stearman is not exactly considered rare, but this hasn't prevented collectors from snapping up airplanes when and wherever they may be found. Two fine examples of Lloyd Stearman's enduring design belong to Errol Shelville of Sonoma, California. These beautifully restored biplanes are not the pampered hangar queens you might expect, but work hard on a daily basis, sharing the wonders of open cockpit flight with pilots and non-pilots alike.
The things I could say about a Stearman, I think, would be just that, what I could tell you how my airplanes fly. The airplane, I believe, is a real good, strong airplane. It has to be to go through what's now on its fourth career, I'd say. It was a trainer in World War II, and it was subject to, how many thousands of cadets, landed from 20 feet up in the air and smashing them on the ground, rolling them up in balls and patching back in. Then getting used as crop dusters. Same thing, hitting levees, and just a very strong airplane, like a tractor almost. Flies about like a tractor too. You can't really compare it to anything much other than maybe you could compare it to a bus or a truck or something. If you can feel comfortable in a Stearman, you're doing okay, really. In a tailwheel, for a tailwheel pilot, if you can do a Stearman, it's good. The Stearman is probably more work to fly aerobatics in than any other airplane. Maybe a Cub would be an exception, but that's not an aerobatic airplane. In comparison, I'd say it'd be like trying to flat track your Chevy. I like flying the Stearman because it is a straightforward, honest airplane. It's open cockpit, it's strong, gives you a real good sense of security. It doesn't have any nasty tendencies other than on landing. Being that it's high center of gravity, gas tanks in the top wing, landing gear is narrow. If you let it get off one side or the other, it's going to want to go all the way around. Don't let that happen. You'll be okay. But it's I just like it. It's a good airplane. But it's a good airplane for both my business and for just flying around.
The Stearman's ability to turn ham-fisted cadets into proficient pilots is legendary, but not that hard to understand. It takes no small amount of effort and strength to coax a Stearman into a precise aerobatic routine, often requiring both hands on the stick and a firm foot on the rudders. It's the kind of airplane that's best flown with all the senses, by sight, by sound, and especially by the feeling in the seat of your pants. And the heady aroma of hot oil from the radial engine makes the experience just about perfect and totally unforgettable. As long as there are people yearning to fly in Stearmans, there will be Stearmans to fly, and the many lessons learned in the quest of flying a Stearman with skill stay with the pilot forever.
I like the Stearman well enough to have spent enough time to build several airplanes, several Stearmans. If you're really interested and you're watching, why don't you come out here and watch us in person? Go for a ride.
The airplanes best known for bringing aviation within easy reach of America's masses are unquestionably the first commercial transport designs of Donald Douglas. the most successful and well-known of these being the Douglas Commercial, or DC-3. These rugged airliners have flown their way all over the globe, and more than 1,000 are still in daily operation some 60 years after first being introduced. For most, owning one DC-3 would be more than enough, but for a certain California-based cookie company, 2 DC-3s are just the ticket. In addition to providing reliable corporate transport, Otis Spunkmeyer Air provides weekend aerial tours of the San Francisco Bay Area to the public for a fee. The tour lasts about an hour, giving each passenger a picture window bird's eye view while enjoying a variety of hors d'oeuvres and beverages. Of course, cookies are also available. As far as flying jobs go, crewing aboard a pair of classic 50-year-old airliners has a certain irresistible appeal.
We've been slowly expanding. Well, the company's been growing exponentially, and the air department is just taken a more active role in marketing and advertising. We've been going to a lot more air shows. And one of the coolest things that we've done, as far as my end goes, is we airdropped 65,000 carnations over the Bill Graham Memorial Concert in Golden Gate Park. Mainly, I feel really privileged to fly these airplanes because they're just classic, majestic part of history from the golden age of aviation, and that's probably the main thing. I feel honored to be able to do it. We're pretty high profile, and you almost feel like a rock star or something, and it's a little uneasy and it's a little unnatural for me to be put in that position. At the same time, it's kind of cool, but it's a little strange. Friends will tell me when I get in an airplane, I really change. I become very calm and I feel at home. Flying to me just seems to make a lot of sense, and it feels right. That's the real thing that I feel when I'm flying.
I became involved with Otis Spunkmeyer Air when, after one Sunday afternoon, I was at the airport picking up a friend and noticed the plane sitting out on the tarmac. I came out and spoke with the pilots, and before I left that afternoon, they'd asked me if I'd be interested in working with them on a part-time basis, and I naturally was thrilled and said yes. There's absolutely nothing I would change about this airplane. It's an historical relic that I'm thrilled to be a part of. It's perfect the way it is.
It just takes one flight in the DC-3 to understand the success of Douglas's classic design and why it's likely to remain that way well into the future. No other single design has done more to bring safe, reliable air transportation within easy reach of the public. And so we might all benefit from Donald Douglas's legacy. The DC-3 set a new standard for passenger comfort and aviation elegance that has guided aircraft designers ever since.
I emphatically feel, hands down, the 60-year-old airplane design. Of course, the Douglas DC-3, I believe, is just, it was made right from the beginning. It was built to last. People love the DC-3. It works, I'm real glad that we're keeping them flying rather than stuck in a museum not doing anything. When people ask me what I do for a living, I tell them I fly for a cookie company. And one of my mottos is cookies, not bombs.
Actually, I think I'm more safe in this plane than any other plane on Earth that I could possibly ride in, whether it was my age or younger or older. I would rather fly in a DC-3 than any other plane in the world.
We've just seen a few of the many classic aircraft that have shaped modern aviation as we know it. The fact that these airplanes are still safely flying today is not just testimony to the vision of the designers and builders, but also to the amazing flexibility of our national airspace system. For our nation's airspace is nothing less than a valuable public resource to be shared by all types and classes of aircraft. Very few countries allow their citizens this relatively unfettered access to the sky. In fact, many countries send their commercial pilot candidates to the United States for training. In this country, flying is not the sole province of a few exceptional persons. Our pilots are people from all walks of life who have discovered the joy of flying and the advantages of high-speed, on-demand personal transportation. And there is some form of flying that is available to just about everyone, from recreational backyard flying to high-performance cross-country aviating. We are fortunate indeed to have the opportunity to pass this uncommon aerial freedom on to future generations of aviators. Join us again as we spread our wings to leave the ground below and explore the world above.
A VHS copy of this program is available for $15.95. If you'd like to find out more about the fascinating world of grassroots flying, an information pack is also available for $7. Additional funding from the Small Aircraft Manufacturers Association, creating a wide range of today's personal aircraft. Otis Spunkmeyer Incorporated, inviting you to taste the quality. General Aviation News and Flyer, the nation's aviation newspaper. Flight Training, Aviation's Proficiency and Careers magazine. Adventure Air and Express Design,